You wake up, and before you even open your eyes, you can already feel it. That thick, filmy coating sitting across the top of your tongue. A taste in your mouth that is not quite right, a little stale, a little sour, the kind of taste that makes you reach for water or coffee before you can even think straight. Most women over 40 feel this every single morning and assume it is normal. It is not normal. It is a signal, and what that coating actually is, and what it is quietly doing to the rest of your body, is not what your dentist has been telling you. Run your tongue against the roof of your mouth right now. Feel that slightly rough, slightly furry surface. That is not just your tongue. That is a living layer, a film that has been building overnight while you slept, and if you have crossed 40, that film is thicker than it used to be. There is a reason for that, and we will get to it because it changes everything about how you should be caring for your mouth from here on. But first, you need to understand what you are actually looking at when you see that pale coating in the mirror. Picture a field of mushrooms, thousands of tiny stalks, each one topped with a little cap, packed close together across the surface of your tongue. Those are your papillae, the structures that hold your taste buds. And in the tight spaces underneath those caps, something collects. Food debris, dead cells, and bacteria layered on top of each other into a thick biofilm. Down in that layer, there is almost no oxygen. It is dark, it is crowded, and it is exactly the kind of place where the wrong bacteria love to live. Here is the part that surprises people. That coating is not just an aesthetic problem, and it is not just about bad breath, though it absolutely causes that. The trapped debris in that field of mushrooms is fermenting. The bacteria down there are feeding on the leftover starches and sugars from everything you ate the day before, and as they feed, they throw off the compounds that make morning breath what it is. But that is only the surface of the story. Now think about why it is worse in the morning, because this is where it gets interesting. When you fall into deep sleep, your saliva glands slow almost to a stop. Your body simply stops producing that steady rinse of saliva that protects your mouth all day long. So, for hours overnight, that biofilm sits there undisturbed, with no saliva washing over it, no minerals feeding the good bacteria, no oxygen reaching underneath. Your mouth turns slightly acidic, the coating thickens, and by the time you wake up, that layer is in the worst state it will be in all day. That thick morning film is the visible evidence of a mouth that spent all night unprotected. And this is where being a woman over 40 changes the entire picture, because almost nobody connects these two things. As estrogen begins to fall through perimenopause and into menopause, your saliva production drops. This is not a small effect. Less estrogen means drier mouth day and night. And a drier mouth means a thicker coating, because saliva is the thing that keeps that biofilm thin and disrupted in the first place. So the same coating your husband or your kids might have as a light haze, you may be waking up with as a heavy layer. It is not that your hygiene got worse. It is that your protection got thinner, which means the one habit almost nobody talks about becomes more important for you after 40, not less. So the obvious answer seems to be simple. Scrape it off. And yes, we are going to get to exactly how. But before you reach for a tongue scraper, there is a real objection you need to hear, because it is the reason a lot of smart people quietly avoid this, and the answer to it is the whole point of this video. Here is the objection. If there are bacteria living on the back of your tongue, and you have spent the last few years learning that your oral microbiome is supposed to be protected, then is scraping your tongue not just destroying the very bacteria you are supposed to keep? Are you not ripping out a living ecosystem every morning? It sounds logical. And if it were true, tongue scraping would be a terrible idea. But it is the exact opposite of what is actually happening. And once you understand why, you will never look at that coating the same way again. Deep in that field of mushrooms, underneath the caps, live a very specific group of bacteria. They are called nitrate-reducing bacteria, and they perform a job your body cannot do without them. When you eat leafy greens and beets, they take the nitrates from that food and convert them, and that conversion is the first step in your body producing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the molecule that relaxes and opens your blood vessels. It is directly tied to healthy blood pressure. It plays a role in how your body handles insulin and blood sugar. These quiet bacteria on the back of your tongue are part of a system that affects your heart, your circulation, and your metabolism. So, the instinct to protect them is correct. The question is, what actually threatens them? And the answer is the coating itself. That thick biofilm is not protecting the good bacteria, it is smothering them. Remember, down in that dense layer there is barely any oxygen, and it is packed with the wrong bacteria feeding on fermented food debris. The helpful nitrate-reducing bacteria need saliva reaching them, they need minerals, they need that layer thin enough for the good part of your microbiome to actually function. When the coating gets too thick, especially in a mouth that is already drier because of falling estrogen, it starves the very system you are trying to protect. So here's the truth that flips the whole thing around. When you scrape your tongue correctly, you are not removing your microbiome. You are thinning the suffocating layer on top of it. You are combing through that field of mushrooms so that saliva, oxygen, and minerals can finally reach down to the good bacteria underneath. Done right, tongue scraping does not hurt your nitric oxide production. It helps it. You are clearing the way for the bacteria that keep your blood vessels open to do their job. That is why this matters so much more than fresh breath, and why it matters more the older you get. Now let me show you how to do it in a way that actually respects that ecosystem, because there is a wrong way that just abrades your tongue and a right way that works with your body. First, timing. The best moment is in the morning, and there is a reason that lines up with everything we just covered. Your tongue is at its most coated right when you wake up, so that is when clearing it does the most good. But do not scrape a dry tongue. Drink some water first. Let your body start producing saliva again, get a little fresh water into your mouth, and then scrape. A wet tongue scrapes more easily, more comfortably, and with far less risk of irritation than a dry one. Second, pressure. Be gentle, especially in the first week. If you scrape and you see a little blood, that is not a cut. That is inflammation, the same way inflamed gums bleed the moment you touch them. A tongue that bleeds when you scrape it is a tongue that was already inflamed, and that is information worth having, not a reason to stop. Just ease off, go slower, and give it time. Third, how you know you are done. As you draw the scraper forward, you will see a pale, creamy film collect on it, sometimes a little beige, sometimes faintly tinged in the beginning. Rinse it and scrape again. You keep going until what comes off runs clear instead of that thick, pale film. When it runs clear, you are finished. That is your signal, not a fixed number of strokes, and you only need to do this once a day. This is not something to obsess over or do 7 times before breakfast. Overdoing it just leaves your tongue sore and makes you dread the whole thing. Once a day, gently, in the morning, until the film runs clear. In the beginning, it might take a minute. After a couple of weeks, it will take a few seconds, because the layer stops rebuilding so heavily once your mouth is being cared for properly. Now, here is what to expect, because the changes are real and they come faster than you think. Within a few days, people notice their breath is fresher, and not because they covered it with mint, but because they removed the source. They notice food tastes better, sharper, more like it used to, because those taste buds are no longer buried under a film, and there is a quieter effect that matters even more after 40. When your taste comes back, you stop craving the heavily processed, over-flavored foods that you needed just to taste anything at all. Your mouth resets, and your appetite starts to follow. So, let me bring this all the way back to where we started. That thick coating you wake up with is not just morning breath, and it is not just cosmetic. It is a signal that the protective system in your mouth is thinning, and for women over 40, that thinning is being driven by the same hormonal shift, changing so many other things about your body. The coating smothers the good bacteria that help keep your blood vessels open and your metabolism steady. And the fix is not aggressive, it is not expensive, and it takes under a minute a day. You are not destroying your microbiome, you are uncovering it. If your dentist has never once talked to you about the surface of your tongue, you are not alone. And that is exactly the kind of gap this channel exists to fill. There is one more piece to this story that most people get completely backwards, and it is about the mouthwash sitting on your bathroom shelf right now, the one you have been trusting to keep your mouth clean. Because if you understood what it is doing to these same bacteria, you would think twice before your next rinse. That is where we are going next.